Good evening, everyone. This is Jen and İskit, and you are watching What's New, What's News. Today, we have a really important guest, esteemed guest, Professor Manuel Brunner, and we will discuss Turkey's EU relations, refugee policies, and human rights issues. We are in a stage, crucial juncture in the complex and ever-evolving relationship between Turkey and the European Union. As we embark on this journey of exploration and analysis, it is essential to acknowledge the multifaceted nature of the topics at hand, from hopeful beginnings of Turkey's accession process to the current challenges and tensions that characterize the relationship. There is much ground to cover. So let me invite Mr. Brunner. Apologies for my if I say your name wrongly. It is a little bit difficult to pronounce it.
It's fine. No, it's fine. Hello, I'm happy to be here with you and to discuss these really important topics, which also are affecting. Like, I'm from Germany, and of course, like many people who are of Turkish origin or Turkish citizens are living here in Germany. So these are important topics, not only for Turkey, but also for, pronounce it correctly, Turkey?
Turkey, yes, Turkey.
Yes. Yeah, Turkey. No, but also for Germany. Yeah.
And thank you very much joining me today's discussion. I think your insight is really important from the outside the country, because I think I'm wondering, how does Turkey seem for EU countries, and Germany is a very vital country for making decisions as well. So that's why your point of view, your insights is really important, because the process has started in 2003, but never ended, in conclusion or any clear decision coming from the EU as well. And when we see the process now between Turkey and EU relations, it seems like a little bit all depends on the refugee policies. We will come to this discussion in a minute, but first I would like to ask you a question. I've seen a survey, Eurometer survey, and it seems EU countries' citizens also don't want Turkey to be a member of the EU. What is the reason for that?
I mean, I have to give a multifaceted answer to that. There are cultural reasons, there are political reasons, there are also like hard legal reasons. And this is quite problematic. I mean, I start with the most easy one. One of the discussions that we have in Western Europe is often, when it comes to Turkey, is that Europe? Because, of course, a large portion of Turkey's landmass is located in Asia. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is a discussion that is really not a good discussion, because Turkey, of course, also joined in 1950 already the Council of Europe. Mm-hmm. and other European organizations as well. And this is an artificial discussion, from my point of view, which also involve, when some people said it is more than nuance of racism, and this is not in order. Then there are, of course, cultural reasons, because, of course, Turkey is a Muslim-dominated country, except for all those countries in the EU. And when in the 2000s, earlier, there was a discussion whether the EU, or back then the European Economic Community, should be kept as a Latin Christian exclusive club. But this basically was out of the window with introduction of Greece already, and then Bulgaria later, which are Orthodox countries. But still, there is this view, but this view is less and less important as religion becomes less and less important in Europe. So
this is what I was going to ask you, because it was, I think that decision was decades ago, and that's why I think it shouldn't be on the table, because most of the refugees is coming from Muslim countries, asylum seekers, refugees, and other citizens as well. So it shouldn't be on the table.
No, it shouldn't be, but some people are thinking still that way. And but where I got this from is basically Huntington, The Clash of Civilizations. This is an important book on geopolitics, and but of course it's more than 30 years old by now. And so, but the view still maintains, but not with so many people. It's not a majority view. And the other thing, and that is really the essence, are the Copenhagen criteria. When the EU was founded in its original form was in 1993 with the Treaty of Maastricht. The then European Economic Community was comprised of 11 Western European countries plus Greece, which is also considered to be a Western European country. And but they had envisaged at that point already the environment of the European Union to make it larger. And they formulated basically 3 criteria which a state must fulfill in order to join the new construct, and then what later becomes the EU from 2009 onwards that we have today. And those criteria is first is a criterion of respect for human rights, respect for democracy, respect for the rule of law, and respect and protection for minority rights. This is the first one. And the second one is basically having a functioning market economy. And the third one is the willingness and the willingness to implement the whole European Union law into your own legal system. And with the first criterion, with the human rights and the democracy and rule of law, there Turkey has many issues. The negotiations, as you mentioned already, were opened. And there were like 35 categories that were discussed between the EU and Turkey, whether Turkey can become member or not. And before those, I will come to that in a minute, but before those negotiations were put on hold, basically only one of these chapters was finished. And this was science and research. All others were not finished or not even opened. And yeah, so, and then the problem of the real rift between Turkey and the EU came with the crackdown of the attempted coup d'etat in 2016. This was the Erdogan's crackdown of the coup d'etat. This was really the point where relations start to get sour. Before there was we will come to both of those things. Before there was also this refugee deal in early 2016, and it looked promising to bring it nearer, to bring Turkey and nearer to EU, but that didn't play out with this attempted coup d'etat. And then the developments they rolled and rolled and rolled. The constitutional referendum and the constitutional change in 2017, which gave Erdogan much more power and was basically designed to keep him in a more powerful position than he had before, those were seen by many senior officials and by many parliamentarians as a violation of the European standard of democracy, because normally you do not design your constitutional system to keep one person in power and then also to keep one person in power, and then also everything is designed like on that narrowed on that person. This is also a problem. Then, of course, the human rights treatment of journalists, of politicians, of human rights activists in Turkey, that became a problem. And also, this is also a problem. And so these are the criteria which some of the criteria which make it really, really hard for Turkey to enter EU. And in the foreseeable future, I think with the current government, it's not possible. The policies of the current government of Turkey are adverse to the European standards. We will come to examples of that later. And then there's one criterion which is not often discussed. It's not an official criterion, but this is something that is in the mind of the politicians and of the senior officials, and that is Turkey's influence in the EU. The EU is a democratic organization and has a European Parliament. And of course, as a democratic parliament, like the representatives of each state therein are measured by the population.
Mm-hmm.
If Turkey would enter the EU, it must have a corresponding matching number to the other numbers for the other states of members in parliament. Now, Germany is at the moment, it is the biggest country with the largest population, but also the largest economy. Turkey, on the other hand, would then be the majority state concerning seats in the parliament. It would have to have more than Germany, because I think Turkey overtook Germany 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and you have like 4 million or 5 million inhabitants more. But at the same time, the Turkish economy is within the EU. It wouldn't be the strongest. It would be some in the midfield, somewhere in the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
And this creates another rift. That is, as I said, it's not an official criterion. But of course, if Turkey would like to enter EU, then its seats in the European Parliament must be corresponding to the population. And this, I think, people shy away from it. Because people in the EU would shy away from this. And of course, you couldn't make any separate rules for Turkey because it's Turkey. That would not work either. So that's also a problem. So basically, we have a whole number of problems that basically led in 2019 to the moratorium on the negotiations concerning association into the EU.
I see. Well, economically, I can say after the pandemic, I think every country has been struggle with their own inflation, and Turkey has now in a stage that dealing in every aspect of it because the current situation and also the exchange currencies of euros and dollars as well. So now I have another point of view to to think about it. Actually, thanks for your answers for that. Well, coming to democracy, rule of law, and human rights. The European Court of Human Rights reported that Turkey had the highest number of applications in 2023. It was 23,000 applicants that individually actually applied for that, which is a very alarming number for EU, I suppose. How do you assess Turkey's human rights situation and its impact on EU-Turkey relations?
Yeah, as respect for human rights is one of the criteria that are needed to enter EU. It is problematic, of course. Like with that such a high number, even though Turkey has a constitutional court, which should take care of many of those things in practice. This is, as you said, it's alarming, and this seriously hampers EU and Turkish relations for sure. We saw that with Orhan Pamuk in the early 2000s. We saw that already, and especially when it comes to prominent speakers. I think we will talk about some prominent persons a little bit later today. It is visible in the EU, and it constantly leads to critique, to put it mildly, on the Turkish system. And even though the European Court of Human Rights is not EU organ, it belongs to the Council of Europe. But still, of course, the EU looks what is on the table of the European Court of Human Rights. And then for Turkey, there are not only so many complaints, but there are also then a lot of judgments against Turkey, and therefore the human rights situations in Turkey is less than optimal. To put it at least. We see that there are problems for journalists. We see problems for human rights defenders, and this is a situation that is highly problematic. Yeah. And this is, of course, and in the European Union, human rights reign supreme, or should reign supreme. Of course, in the European Union, there are also problems with, or used to be problems with Poland. There are problems with Hungary, but still, the consensus is that human rights should reign supreme, or must reign supreme. Sorry, must reign supreme, and the president of Turkey, he is constantly. He's constantly trying. I mean, if maybe I think it's kind of deliberate that he's also attacking the European human rights standard. I mean, after the attempted coup d'état in 2016, he openly thought about reintroducing the death penalty in Turkey, if I remember correctly. And this is something. There is the European standard. I mean, there's a basic standard of human rights that should apply not only in the EU, but all over Europe, according to the Council of Europe. And this has two main criteria. And this is no torture, no death penalty. This is the very, very minimum human rights consensus in Europe. No torture, no death penalty. And if a head of state is openly putting in the idea again to have the death penalty, this is then undermining relations with the EU, but also with the Council of Europe, and also with the vast majority of member states of those organizations.
Well, there is one thing that I can remind properly the process actually with the death penalty. First, Erdogan's ally, nationalist Turkish party, party's leader, current leader, Devlet Bahçeli, has been reminding it through the peace process between Kurdish people, Kurdish side of Turkey and Turkish side of it, and this was on the table that time. Erdogan himself briefly mentioned that one, but it wasn't officially on the table.
But still, that's enough.
It wasn't officially on the table with the death penalty.
Still, that's enough. Yeah, I mean, if the head of state and government is putting the prohibition of the death penalty into question, this is something. Yeah, even if it's officially discussed or not, that is something. Another problem is, of course, the recent withdrawal of Turkey from the Istanbul Convention. This is also something that is an unprecedented act, that a state is actually withdrawing from a human rights treaty. This is of course also something, and this is also viewed with a lot of suspicion in Europe or in the EU, because there was, if I remember correctly, Erdogan didn't really give an explanation, but everybody believed he got the pressure from those religious and very conservative groups who advocated that it would somehow encourage women to have a divorce, and would be in support of LGBTIQ plus positions. And this is also worrisome. Yeah, if a head of state can be pressured into withdrawing not from any treaty, but from a human rights treaty by religious, and especially by religious groups, that sheds a bad light on the human rights situation in a country. And even, I mean, Turkey was the first. I mean, it's the Istanbul Convention. It was obviously signed in Istanbul, and Turkey was back in the second decade of the 2000s, the first country who ratified it, long before other countries. In Turkey, ratified it, I think, in 2012 already, and Germany, for instance, only 11. In 2017 or 11, yeah, and Germany only 6 years later. And then that you withdraw from a whole human rights treaty in the area of the Council of Europe, which is, according to international law experts, like the area with the best protection of human rights. This is really worrisome.
Well, yes. Speaking about Istanbul Convention is a huge problem in Turkey, and women have been battling since last year to gain it back with the Istanbul Convention, because now Article 6284 is another issue discussing in the parliament, because of the conservative right-wing political parties, and the animally basic rights of women, divorce process, and everything is now under threat, basically. And hopefully, at some point, we will gain Istanbul Convention, which is vital for women in Turkey. Speaking about the human rights issues in Turkey, there's a recent developments such as the detention. I mean, it's not recent anymore, but the detention of individuals like Osman Kavala, Selahattin Demirtaş, Can Atalay have raised concern about democracy and freedom of expression in Turkey. How do these issues affect Turkey's EU membership aspirations? Because especially, I think the recent Can Atalay case is on the table. I assume on the table from EU side as well, because of his case is extraordinary now, because of the clashes between the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court, Supreme Court. So what is your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, especially the Kavala case. This is the most prominent one. This is like the one that, in Germany at least, got the most cover, and is the most prominent one in the EU. The Demirtaş case and the other ones you mentioned also, for a little bit other reasons, but basically it's all the same. I mean, the European Court of Human Rights, they said basically in both cases, Demirtaş and in Kavala, you have to release them. And even if when they were on pre-trial custody, and this is and Turkey didn't do it. They didn't do it, while they are bound to the to carry out those judgments under the European Convention of Human Rights. And then again, we see the same undermining language from Erdogan here that we saw before, that I mentioned before. He said, yeah, they are shameful judgments. They are the European Court of Human Rights shows again that it's not a good court. It's infringing Turkish independent judicial procedures and stuff. But again, Turkey is bound to the European Convention on Human Rights and bound to carry out the judgments. And in the case of Osman Kavala, this is very prominent because in that case, the Council of Ministers, which is in the Council of Europe, the highest organ, they introduced a new procedure, the infringement procedure. This is a very, very new procedure. It's only in the European Convention on Human Rights since 2010, and before that, it was only used once with concerning a prominent case in Azerbaijan, where it was also in the Azerbaijani case, it was also about an opposition politician. And this procedure is not used very often. So it's the second time in the Kavala case. And the Council of Ministers can then, when the Council of Ministers think that a judgment is not carried out properly, it can send that back to the European Court of Human Rights to check it. And if the European Human Rights comes to the conclusion, yeah, well, the state has not carried out the judgment properly, then the Council of Ministers can introduce sanctions against that state. What that will be, we don't know, because the Azerbaijani case was actually closed when the Azerbaijani courts released the guy who was the case about. But with respect to Turkey, we will see what the sanction will be. Some people speculate even that Turkey could be suspended from the Council of Europe, and this would be the gravest sanction. But it is very unlikely. It is very unlikely that they will do it, from my perspective. But it will be kind of a harsh harsh judgment upon Turkish politics. This is my belief. And still with Osman Kavala, then coming to the EU relations, the European Parliament, when I think the final judgment against him was delivered on the 28th of April, I think, and on the 5th of May, the European Parliament reacted with a very strong declaration. And they explicitly said, this procedure will hamper the process of EU membership for Turkey. They say it is a continued violation of international human rights standards. And they used very strong language to say they would be horrified. And this is a strong language, not very diplomatic, to say you are horrified by the development in another country. That Osman Kavala got a life sentence. Yeah. And so very strong language, and that's what the Osman Kavala case. It is really putting a strain on EU-Turkey relations, as the Orhan Pamuk situation was in the early 2000s. And with respect to Demirtaş, this case is not so prominent. At least to my perception. I may be wrong, but in my perception, it's not so. But also here, the European Court of Human Rights also used this. They in one of the judgments concerning him, the European Court of Human Rights explicitly said, yeah, that he was detained because the government wanted him out of the political process. And this is yeah, and of course, this only doesn't only shed a good light on human rights situation, but also on the democracy situation, of course. Yeah? And then again, here's the undermining language that is used by the head of state and government of Turkey. And he said, yeah, in my lifetime, or as long as I am in office, Demirtaş will never be released out of prison. While this should not, but this should be a court decision first, and not an executive decision. And with this undermining language that is always used, President Erdogan is undermining every other aspect of EU and Turkey relations, actually, which is very, very problematic, and doesn't give a good standing for Turkey vis-a-vis EU. Safe from the from Turkey's geopolitical situation, of course.
Well, Turkey's geopolitical situation and the position is very important for Europe, I think. I mean, European countries, not only because of the trade agreements or anything like that, but politically, they benefit each other during those agreements. So this is another topic to be discussed. But Turkey is a very important position on that matter when we speak about it. But coming to that one, actually, recent refugee policies that I would like to discuss with you, because recently I invited Professor Murat Erdoğan, who is an expert on refugee policies of the EU as well, especially from the Syria war. And he has some claims of EU, how they possessed to Turkey, because we have seen the process since 2016. Actually, EU gives the money, Turkey keeps the refugees, and the recent green light opened by Erdogan during the summer, and they made another refugee agreement as well during that time, and he started speaking about potential EU membership that time as well, after he spoke about the refugees, but also that time there has been some agreements with the UK. Some visits happened. Recent visits was from Italian Prime Minister, who was fully against Erdogan, who used to be fully against Erdogan, but after she became the Prime Minister, she visited Turkey, and she, of course, made some agreements with Turkey. So when we see this aspect, how will the process develop on this matter? Because I think in this situation, people from Turkey, I'm not talking about the racism or anything like that, but is a little bit uncomfortable with the situation now Turkey has been dealing with the refugee policies, because one side, Erdogan is making, he is the decision maker, and the other side is the EU is a decision maker. But in the overall, it isn't anything like effective solution has been found during the situation since 2016. What is your point of view on that?
Yeah, well, this is a delicate question, of course. Because on the one hand, European Union always tries to present itself as a champion of human rights, or one of the champion of human rights in the world. On the other hand, there's strong society. In many states there's a strong movement against further intake of refugees. So from a political point of view, this was quite a comfortable deal with Turkey. Yeah, again, what I said before, that Turkey can always profit a little bit from or a lot in some ways, from its geopolitical situation in this geopolitical sweet spot Turkey sits in. But I think it will not bring Turkey and EU closer together. I mean, there may be some effects like what is now talked about, like privileged partnership, or there are concessions concerning Schengen visa and other things. But in the big picture, it will not lead to membership of EU. This must be quite clear. This is like Turkey, as we saw. You mentioned the recent agreement, and prior to the session, we also talked about a little bit about it wasn't the EU context, but it was the grain deal at the beginning of the war against Ukraine by the Russian Federation. So there you can see, like, Turkey has always the opportunity to play with the geopolitical sweet spot it sits in. But this is only temporal always. It is only temporal, and to my view, and it will lead to temporary results for Turkey. It will make some things for Turkey easier, with the view towards EU, but as long as Turkey keeps the policies and practices that we discussed earlier today, or some of which we discussed earlier, not all, but some of which, it will not bring it closer to EU. And then you mentioned Prime Minister Meloni from Italy. Well, of course, she's from a neo-fascist party. Of course, she must oppose a country like Turkey because of majority Muslims. She must. I mean, this is like, yeah, she's from a neo-fascist party. On the other hand, there's also this extreme conservative mindset in Italian neo-fascists that we also see. That this neoconservative mindset is also, of course, also present in AKP. So it is, for me personally, if I can make this remark, I do not wonder a lot. I do not wonder too much about this, that they get well along together.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So this is the situation, and basically, as long as people coming as refugees via Turkey, the situation will remain the same with EU. EU will pay, and Turkey has then to deal with it. Basically, this will be the situation, and as long as Turkey accepts the money that comes, and needs them, and also needs the money. You mentioned the economic situation of Turkey earlier in our talk. They will need the money. They will always say, they can always say, we will open the gates, and the people then are coming to Europe. But in the end, then they will lose the money.
Well, this is the card of Erdogan's, of course. When it comes to money concerns, yes. But on the other hand, I don't think this is kind of a fair agreement in between Turkey and EU, because I remember the figures when I was in the UK. I was reporting, of course, with the crisis of Syria, and for instance, that time I think Germany only accepted 50,000 refugees that time. UK only accepted 10,000 refugees. Some of the countries from Scandinavian countries, especially, only 50, something like that. I don't remember the exact figures, but it was kind of a joke, because now we're dealing, official data is for Turkey is more than 4 million now, refugees, only Syrians that I'm talking about, and also the Afghans are coming from, of course. others are coming from our neighbors as well. So do you think this is a fair agreement between EU and Turkey?
No, it's this is quite this is I mean this is like in Germany, for instance, at the moment, a lot of people are complaining there are coming so many refugees and they are taking all the money away and stuff, which is often in many ways it's wrong. What is a popular belief, you know, and it gives rise to populism and for populist parties and and this is, I mean, Turkey is not the only country. You know? Look at Jordan. Yeah, Jordan took in all the Palestinian refugees, or Lebanon in the 1940s and after the Six-Day War. Look at Kenya, where where all the refugees gone from southern Somalia, and those are countries, including Turkey, which suffer like huge from refugee crisis and which put a much strain on these countries. Germany then under Merkel, then of course they accept, Germany accepted accepted many refugees then later in 2015, but the willingness to give refuge to refugees is not very good in Europe, and it's, of course, it's unfair. And they say, okay, leave that in the countries that are culturally, religiously, and geographically closer to those refugees, and
also capable, of course. I think
yeah,
this is another. It should be another criteria for this agreement, I think.
yeah. And this is therefore it's kind of you could deem it unfair,
Yeah.
you could deem it unfair, but yeah, so that's the thing I can say about it.
Yeah.
Actually.
No, this is kind of course, this is not I'm accepting the recent policies of both sides. I don't think this should be the proper way of dealing with the refugee crisis, because it is now the reality of the world. This is not only happening in the Middle East, it is happening in Ukraine, and now another situation in Israel and Gaza is.
Yeah. Also in South America, there was this crisis. Many in Europe didn't have this on, didn't know about this or didn't think about it. But there was many people who fled Venezuela, for instance, some years ago, and went then to Peru and to Brazil and to Colombia and to Ecuador and to Costa Rica and Mexico. And there's also like refugee crisis will with climate change, with increased interstate and intrastate war, with natural disasters, and so on, and also then with overpopulation in numerous countries, for instance in the Sahel, they will remain real, and we have to find a way, and we have to find a global way, actually, to tackle those issues.
Yeah.
And because this is a temporary deal. I mean, this is a temporary solution between EU and Turkey. Even it might last 10 years or 15 years relevant, but it's temporary because the origins and the roots of people fleeing from this piece of land or the other, they are there, and you cannot do so far about them. So, and this is really something where a real effort is needed to tackle those roots and those causes.
Yes, speaking about the dynamics between Turkey and the EU, there is another problem now Turkish citizens are facing recently about the visa applications. And also the visa liberation was on the table recently. this was kind of a new negotiation between Turkey and the EU. Do you foresee any potential for visa liberalization for
Yeah,
Turkish citizens across the EU in the
no.
near future? And what are the main obstacles to achieving this?
The same as always, like the same as we discussed before. Basically, also visa concessions go into the political negotiation mess.
Mhm.
Period.
Mm.
And of course, like Germany, for instance, I think this was a good thing. When the earthquake happened, the big earthquake, um, this special treatment for Turkish relatives who could then come to Germany for 6 months, or then was prolonged, I think. But in general, it's part of the political negotiation math, and therefore it will remain highly problematic. Maybe again, if this could be something that could be like for Turkey, always be the negotiation table. So give us more visa, give us liberalized visa policies. We give you this and give you that, but still part of the overall negotiation mess. And yeah, with the other problems that we discussed before today.
Well, this is not the only problem, actually, because recently what I have been hearing from my environment, even you get the criteria of the visa applications documentary, first, the European countries postponing all the appointments. Secondly, even you fill all the criteria, they're finding a reason to decline the applications, even with the normal tourist visa, which is a little bit alarming. And everyone is saying
Yeah.
that because of the policies, but I don't know.
Actually, of course, I'm just a modest professor, so I don't have the internals of visa
Yeah,
application
yeah,
processes. This you
yeah,
have to excuse me on this point.
no
But
problem.
but in general, of course, it is like I mean, if you fulfill the criteria for a visiting visa, tourist visa, I mean, you should be granted, but of course, can be political reasons behind it. For
Yes.
this or other, but they on that I'm not aware at the moment, actually.
No problem. No problem. We're coming to an end now. I have one more question, because now this is on the table and has been discussing on and off. Do you think in the near future there's a potential negotiations, official ones, will start again, and that time maybe Turkey will be an EU country?
No,
No,
I think not. Not
straightforward.
not as long. I mean, not as long as President Erdogan is in power, because
Okay.
of all what I said before. And there must be also other issues that we couldn't discuss today.
Of course.
There are also other issues concerning the dispute with Greece, Cyprus, and so on. And then some more stuff also, that there needs to be, like, for real coming back on track and for being them successful. I mean, it took, like, I mean, the application of Turkey to the EU was from 1987, and then it was in 2000 in the 1999 they started the process, and as you mentioned, the negotiation started in 2003, and now we are 2024. So
More
and
than two
never has a
decades.
process,
Yeah.
yeah, never has it taken so long. And so with President Erdogan, I think there is no chance. If maybe out of the sudden he'd do a complete change in policies, then it might be different. But at the moment, not. And also some other official state policies of Turkey must be changed. There was this infamous criminal, again, this is a human rights thing, this Article 301 of the Turkish Criminal Code.
Yes.
Yeah, so which was liberalized a little bit after Orhan Pamuk situation concerning this insult on Turkdom, but still, like, things like you can be brought to a court and then be brought to jail if you insult the nation. This is also highly problematic, and so many more things. So that then there needs to be many steps to needs to be taken by Turkey, and I think also by the huge part of the Turkish population in their views on nationhood and so on, because the EU is about there is not so much place for nationalism. The EU is super densely integrated, yeah, and there the nationalist card that AKP is playing and that's attracting obviously numerous voters in Turkey is not working well with that.
Well, is there anything you would like to add? By the way, for my audience, if you have any questions, please, now you can drop your questions, and may I get your last words during that time, please?
Yeah, I just my personal views. Some of my very good friends are from Turkey, and I personally hope that the personal relations on, I would not say on both sides, but this sounds too adverse to each other. That there will be amicable relations between Turkish people and people from all other countries of the European Union, and I think this will help a lot. I think this will be something good, and I'm enjoying really my friends and colleagues from Turkey, and my time with them, my talks with them, and basically this in the end will help or must help then to bring, like, sides closer together. And it worked once. It worked with a conference on security and cooperation in Europe, and why shouldn't it work on this scale either?
Yeah, well, we couldn't even speak half of it. What was the situation? We couldn't even dig in the security issues as well. Cyprus is always in there on the table because of the approach of Greek Cypriot side as well. So, well, yeah, and economy is very concerning in Turkey now. Thank you very much, Mr. Bune. I really appreciate that you joined today's discussion, and I think your insights were really important for my audience as well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and I hope we will find time for another talk in the future.
Thank you. Thank
you.
Well, yes, as you have seen, we have a lot of topics to discuss, and as I said, we couldn't even speak and discuss the half of it because this is a huge and important topic for Turkey. But hopefully we will definitely do more discussions on that matter. Thursday will be before the International Women's Day, and we have a special guest on Thursday at 8 p.m. Turkey time. Till then, take care. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.